no disrespect to anybody listening if you've got a logo with rooftops, but the real estate industry tends to, if you're in real estate, then your logo has to have house roofs or something. What are the things to consider around logos? What should people be?
Yeah. Austin actually came up with a really great acronym when he was thinking about your audience and coming up with something really easy, and it's FEAST. So the first thing, the F, stands for you want something that's flexible. So you want something that you can put on a business card, you want something that goes on a website, you want something that can go on the back of your car, you want something that can potentially go on a building or a billboard. So something that looks good in all of those spaces and all of those mediums would be the F.
Okay.
Yeah, the E in FEAST would be ease or simplicity. The worst thing you can do is have a logo that has so many different elements and branches, and you don't want it to look really complicated. You want it to be something where somebody can view it. I mean, a good rule of thumb is if you can view it on a billboard going down the freeway at 60 miles per hour and be able to recognize what it is and then be able to recreate it easily, then it's simple enough that it's going to stick for people. It's going to be memorable.
You make an interesting point. There was a biotech company that I used to work for in the UK many years ago, and their logo had 7 different colors on it.
Wow.
And the cost of every time you needed to print at the time letterhead or business cards. And of course you had to find a printer that really knew how to get the colors right, because otherwise they bled into each other and it just looked a complete mess. And,
that's a really good point. Beyond just the simplicity of looking at it, I mean, the more elements and colors you have, the more expensive it's going to be to print it in different places. Right. That's a good point.
And what's the rest of your FEAST?
Yeah, so then we got A, so it's appropriate. So it's going to be appropriate for your audience. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about who you're trying to target and make sure that it's visually appealing for them.
And I think this is why a lot of, going back to your point about houses for real estate, people are thinking, oh, well, real estate, houses, that's appropriate for my audience. And it is, but they kind of do that at the neglect of the uniqueness, I guess. Mm-hmm. So you want to be appropriate to your audience, but you also want to stand out.
That's it. Okay, I'm going to ask a question around personal brand logos, because something that I've seen, and you can go online and get these kind of not ready-made, but you can kind of plug in your name and they automatically design, which I'm not a huge fan of. But letters, so, first name, second, surname, initials seems to be a very popular way. What are the benefits of that, and what are the downsides of having a personal brand logo that just uses initials?
Yeah, so the benefits to that is that people can immediately recognize that as you. So like if you say Monica Mangelson, you would think of me. You're not going to think of anybody else. You're going to be thinking of me. The bummer with that is when people use their initials, that could be anybody, So like, for example, we follow this lady, her name is Elizabeth McCravey, and she uses her initials EM a lot. And when I first saw that, I was like, EM, like who is EM? And it took me a while to connect that was the same person.
Right.
That can kind of be a downside. And then if it's not legible, a lot of people like these really fun, fancy script fonts, but if it's not legible, like really quick, that can be a downside as well.
Making me think too much. Yeah. Okay.
I guess as another example, my little brother is starting up a car detailing business. So we're helping him get everything off the ground and get it moving. And his business name is letters, it's 3 letters, OCD. And we were trying to find him on Google the other day because he's just barely started. So we're trying to make sure that his Google My Business is set up and everything. And even just here in Utah, in the Salt Lake Valley, there are dozens and dozens of car detailing businesses with the same
the name OCD.
The same letters.
Really?
Yeah. Which it surprised us because he thought he was being really unique and clever, and at the time we thought he was too, but then we didn't realize that there's a lot of people using the same letters. Wow. So that can be a downside, is people have the same initials as you, and so you get kind of lost in that. That being said, I mean, our business, A&M Digital Design, we use our initials. We've tacked on a little extra on the end of that, but it's something that we use. And so there's definitely, there is a usefulness to it if you're trying to create a personal brand and connect with people.
Right. Okay. And what's the S?
The S would be structure. You want your logo to look balanced. And kind of the good rule of thumb that I've heard about this is if your logo were a building, would it stand or would it topple over? So you don't want too much to be visually on one side or the other. You want it to look like it's well balanced, like there's an equal amount of visual space and elements on all sides of your design.
Right.
And then the T would be timelessness, meaning you don't want to get caught up in designing based on trends, things that are super popular right now, because it might be popular now, but a couple of years down the road, it probably won't be or might not be.
Right.
And then you might have to redesign, which could be expensive. It could take a lot of your time. And so you want to try and stick to designs that are kind of tried and true and something that's going to last more time.
Right.